Hello everybody. Today I just wanted to talk about, what to do at level 50, what to do after you hit level 50. So I've been playing for about a week. I've hit level 71. I've done a few things, so I just wanted to give some tips about, like if I went back and tried to do things more efficiently, what would I do? So first off, after you hit 50, the first thing I would actually do that I did not do is go focus on renown. And the reason why is to just get it out of the way, right? It's just free skill points, it's free Paragon points, it's more obols, right? It's really important because Paragon is a huge power spike, so just getting this out of the way, because you're going to have to do it at some point, is going to be probably the first thing at 50 you can do that's going to help you out the most. Not only that, in order to actually get this done, you're going to have to do the strongholds, the waypoints, the dungeons, and the altars of Lilith, and then after that, you're going to have to do about, I don't know, about like 10 to 15 side quests depending on how many dungeons are in the area. So, and then areas discovered, you're just going to get that for walking around to the dungeons, so that's going to kind of work itself out. But the cool thing about this is that if you don't have a build yet and you're trying to make a build, is that you have to do 23 dungeons, right? And you actually have to do strongholds, so there's a good chance that by the time you're done with the renown, you're going to have a build put together. Now, that brings me to the next point. What would I do build-wise? So, as much as people don't want to hear it, I would probably just try to put together the most meta build. And the only reason for that is because the faster you get to tier 4, the faster you can make an off-meta build better. Right now, there are always going to be builds that are just not going to be able to do tier 4. I know this from experience. Hell, I'm still trying my damnedest to make a werewolf companion build that's good in tier 4, right? But that being said, it's going to help make those builds better if you can get to tier 4 fast and just get a super big weapon. Because if you don't know, the biggest thing that's going to impact your damage is going to be your weapon, right? Like right here, I have a pretty low damage weapon on this build, right? And the reason for that is because I still need to find another shockwave. I haven't found a whole lot of these, right? So, but the thing is I have weapons stockpiled now that will actually do a heck of a lot more damage. Like, look at this one. This one's at 1900. I have one that's like, I think it's like 2200 damage. Yeah, here's one that's 2090. So if the faster you get to tier 4, the faster you're going to start blasting at a base level and just do a ton of damage. So if you're trying to figure out what build to play, for the Druid right now, I would recommend trying to put together the Werebear build. It's just easy, it's simple to play, it's tanky, you won't die, and at a base level it'll crush everything. Like, I don't even have that great of gear, and I was able to unlock tier 4 and stuff with it. So it's a pretty solid build. So that's what I'd recommend build wise. Just try to build the Werebear stuff, or if you wanted to, there's also a Stormwolf build that seems to be pretty solid as well. I'm still looking for Tempest Roar so I can make it, because that's the thing, is you can play the Werebear build. You can play the Werebear build without Vasili's Prayer. It's not as good, but you can play it. But you really can't play the I don't believe you can play the Stormwolf build without Tempest Roar like at all. So that's why this would be my recommendation as the first build that you go for. And then after that, once you get tier 4 unlocked, once you get your renown done, then start looking at making and messing around with off-meta builds, because another thing you're going to want is Paragon. So you're going to get an absolute ton of power out of Paragon, and I mean just astronomical amounts of power out of Paragon. So being able to farm EXP and stuff like that and get to those higher levels and play is going to really help unlock your characters, because again, even if you have some other build that you want to do that isn't like super meta, right? Having the glyphs and having all this stuff is going to really help carry it to make it towards at least baseline playable on like World Tier 4 or something like that. So now after that, then after Renown and while you're doing Renown, you can also look around, just kind of do some of these Grim Favors, do the Tree of Whispers to get legendaries. You are going to need to unlock World Tier 3, so once you do get a build together, even if you don't have the Renown done, I would say go to the Capstone Dungeon and then continue on Nightmare 3, because chances are if you built the Werebear build, you're going to be able to plow through World Tier 3 pretty easily. So that's going to make it to where you're getting 100% more increased experience, which is going to really help you, and not only that, you can also get sacred and unique items, and then you can also get nightmare sigils, and then you can also do hell tides and stuff like that. So it actually opens up a lot more content, and your builds are going to get a hell of a lot stronger as well, because being able to get like a sacred unique, and then you'll actually be able to find things like Vasili's Prayer and stuff like that. So, and you're gonna want that stuff. Okay, so after you hit tier 3, after you've got your build together, what do you do now? Well, at that point, you probably just want to go run into nightmare dungeons and just farm the living heck out of them. Now, there are multiple ways to farm experience, right? I think the way that most super min-max people are doing it are just finding whatever the dungeon is that has the highest density. I think the one I've seen most recently is Champion's Demise, is the one that everybody's going on and on about. However, I believe that's actually better as a 4-man strategy, and if you don't have a 4-man group, my recommendation if you're just blasting solo is just do nightmare dungeons. It's a lot more fun than just spamming the same dungeon over and over again. At least you have some type of variety, and it also adds an added challenge with affixes and stuff. So once you unlock tier 3 and you get a nightmare sigil to drop, you're going to have access to crafting. So you'll just be able to craft sigils. And sigil powder, I have no idea like where I had gotten it, but like by the time I even got this unlocked, I had like 300 sigil powder. So, and you get sigil powder from various things, doing dungeons, just breaking down other sigils also gives it to you. So, and you can see here they typically will give you like 1 positive affix, and then like depending on what rank you're doing, 3 or 4 negative affixes, and I think once you go up higher it gets all the way up to like 6 negative affixes and 1 positive affix. So they get harder and harder, but they are definitely worth they're definitely worth doing. Now, if you're wondering how do you what's the best way to find a legendary, I don't really have a good answer for you in terms of like how to target find a legendary, because I don't really believe that there is one currently in the game. As much as I want to tell you that, I don't think I can. The best way to do it is just going to be to do nightmare dungeons, or to just farm something like Champion's Demise over and over again until you do it. Now, because if you do farm, there is something to be said about doing things like Champion's Demise, because you have to remember, if you're farming the dungeon that has the most pack density, right, and you're doing it on a strong build like Werebear, where you're just kind of, I don't know, you're kind of blasting through it, or like Whirlwind Barb, or actually I don't know if Whirlwind Barb's even good anymore. I haven't really been following the other classes too crazy closely, but whatever the top build is currently for your class, I mean, you should just be able to plow through this. And then and because you're doing like higher density, that's going to give you more chances it drops, which is statistically just going to make you more likely to find what you're looking for. Because I know if you're like me, there's certain legendaries that are really hard to find. Aspect of the Alpha being one of them. My gosh, is that one hard to find. But yeah, and then so after you start doing nightmare dungeons and you get to about, I don't know, it depends on how comfortable you are. I think I did the capstone at like 67, but you probably could do it. You could probably do the tier 4 one earlier, depending on how strong your build is, depending on how strong the drops are. I mean, I did it at 67 and it was fine with the Werebear build, but I also was in a group with one other person who was also running a Werebear build. So if you're struggling with it, just find a friend to help you. It's really not too difficult as long as you do have a decent build put together. However, in that capstone dungeon, they will absolutely that boss will one-shot you if you do not have your defenses on check, and if you fail to do the mechanics of the fight. Even if you do have a good build, I think I ended up dying like 2 or 3 times just because I just kept getting hit by the mechanics too much. And then once I dodged all the mechanics, oh, boom, fight got easy. So, yeah. And then once you get to World Tier 4, I mean, once you get to World Tier 4, again, it's just going to be doing nightmare dungeons. Like, I mean, that really is the end game of Diablo. I mean, you can run around and do hell tides and stuff as well if you get bored with grinding that stuff. But I mean, just doing nightmare dungeons, pushing to get as high as you can in those dungeons, that really is the end game of Diablo, and then trying to get to level 100 so you can do the capstone. It's really just a kind of an experience grind from there. However, you don't have to go grind experience. You can do whatever it is you enjoy. There's also PvP and stuff like that to do. But yeah, so I guess to summarize, what to do after you hit 50. First thing is start working on Renown, getting a good build together. If you're playing Druid, I recommend Werebear personally. Now, after that, once you get to the point where you can do the level 50 capstone dungeon, which will be right here, go ahead and do it so you can unlock Nightmare or World Tier 3. I believe it's Nightmare mode. Then after that, keep knocking out all your renown. Make sure you get all your renown done. Just keep at it. You're going to get a bunch of experience, and hopefully by the time you're done with getting all your renown, you'll be around like 65 or something. And then you can go and you can try to take on the World Tier 4 boss. And then once you unlock World Tier 4, just go to Nightmare Dungeons. And then if you're done with all the renown and you have renown 5 in all the areas, but you're not high enough levels to do the capstone dungeon level 70, just go do Nightmare Dungeons. Like, it's gonna eventually just default to Nightmare Dungeons over and over again, because that really is the Diablo endgame. Now, that being said, Nightmare Dungeons are pretty fun. They have different affixes, they make the dungeons harder, make the mobs harder, so it's a pretty good time. And then try to get to 100 and do that capstone dungeon. Alrighty, well, that is going to be it for me. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe if you want to see more, and I hope this helps you out.